Welcome back. It's Tim Gatos. So glad that you are with us today. I tell you, excited to have Krist Novoselic with us in studio. He founded Nirvana in 1987 and then founded the Cascade Party in 2024.
Hi, Tim.
You're an entrepreneur.
I'm always looking for opportunity or trying to make change, an agent of change, and here I am today. I'm happy to be on your show.
Thanks so much for joining us. And I tell you, we were talking the other day and hearing the vision for the Cascade Party and hearing we have a lot of polarization. We have a lot of things that can divide us. And I tell you, there's a lot of vision and passion that I see when you share about why you're doing this. And a lot of this has to do with your background and a lot of the things that you've been involved with over the years. And we'll get into all that, but just share with us a little bit about why you started the Cascade Party and what it is.
Well, we need a effective opposition in Washington State. We've had one party domination for too long, and it's getting more dominating. And the Republican brand with Trump is just not working in Washington State. And then Democrats, I used to be a Democrat. I was active in the Washington State Democrats. I was chair of Okaloosa County Democratic Central Committee, precinct committee officer, state committee officer. I'd go to the meetings, I did all that. And then in 2009, I just was not connecting with the party. So I resigned as chair and I left to be a political independent until Cascade Party was established last year.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, and congratulations on that. To say, hey, I helped start a political party, those don't start every day.
Well, it depends on what state you're in. So every state has its own rules. And in Washington, you can only qualify as a recognized state party once every 4 years. It's like cicadas hatching, right? So it's in the spring of a presidential year, and there's these requirements, these hoops you have to jump through. And we did it, and we qualified as a party. So we're good as a party until 2028, until when we have to do it all over again. So if you want to start a new party, like today or tomorrow in Washington State, you can't until 2028. So there's 3 parties in Washington State now, recognized parties. Republican Party, Democratic Party, and Cascade Party.
What was the moment, Krist, where you said, you know what, I'm going to do this? What was that kind of tip of the spear, that moment in your life where you're like, you know what, I'm doing this?
I've always been fascinated by political association. That's why I gravitated towards a group, like a political party in the aughts with Democrats. I'm active in the Washington State Grange. And it goes back to just being a young person in the punk rock scene and finding like-minded kids. And we made our own shows, we made our own magazines, we made our own music. We made our own way, and we associated. We didn't pass government or corporations. We just did it our own ways. And the help we got was from small business, like the clubs, beer distributors, because we would sell beer basically when you play those rock shows. Mm-hmm. And we community groups too, like Ranges, Odd Fellows, Elks. We would play their halls, and it was a cool thing. It was really decentralized. And that's the thing with Generation X. I'm the oldest Generation X, right? We would listen to the radio until our favorite song came on, and then record it on a cassette, right?
Yeah.
So we had that patient.
You'd always get the 2 seconds of the DJ doing the lead-in, though, and try to get rid of that.
That was just the ambiance, right? And we saved money. It was resourceful.
Yeah. Talk about it's interesting because I'm similar to you. I've been kind of in some ways disenfranchised by different parties and how we go about things. And I know a lot of people are similar to that. In fact, later in the program, 5 p.m. hour, we're going to talk to Alex Berenson, who is out in New York. He was a reporter for the New York Times for 12 years, and he's in the similar conversation that we're having now. What was it, I guess, I don't know if it was, you saw how the sausage was made, so to speak, when you were in the Democrat Party and you were doing a lot of the initiatives and things that you were doing. What were those moments that kind of brought you to a place of saying, you know what, we can do better?
Well, people are exhausted and overwhelmed by all the political attacks. So it's more about the people. The system can adapt because we still are a democracy, right? And so we're a party where we don't want to exploit anxiety. So we have this campaign industrial complex in our state, the consultants, and we just went through all that, the mailers, the ads, the nasty grams, and it's really base stuff too. There's a lot of distortions, and we're like looking at Olympia. So what happened is, like, for Washington State was an outlier. We went more left in 2024 in that election than the rest of the country, okay? And so Trump is really unpopular in our state. And that's bringing the opposition party down, is the Republicans. They're tied to the hip with Trump, right? And so, so things are so polarized, and so they're just running against Trump all the time. Mm-hmm. And so we want to look, like, so the legislative session happened, right? So there's it's like the phases of grief. So there's like the shock, the denial, the anger, and there's all that happening with Trump. And you see it on social media, people sharing the memes all day long, right? I don't like the guy either, right? But he doesn't live in my head rent-free, right? So we had this legislative session in January, and the majority party, they like passed $9 billion in new taxes, right? And so like, where is this? So what are the outcomes, and what are we getting out of this? And so, like, what we're doing with Cascade Party is, like, we're looking towards the 2026 session as just objectively and saying, hey, what could be best for our state? So, like, now, like, the agencies, they're submitting their budget requests, right? So the Department of Commerce is asking for an additional $3.2 million to fund local climate plans and plan implementation, right? 3.2 million bucks, okay? Well, I drive a Tesla, right? So what are my missions, okay? So right now at this moment, I guess where I'm just kind of, sharing stuff. But, and that climate stuff too, didn't Bill Gates just come out and say, well, maybe this climate stuff isn't that,
right?
Blah,
it's
blah,
not as
blah, blah,
serious.
It's not as serious, right? But there's still like $3.2 million for local climate plans and plan implementation. But I'm not like an anti-tax guy. We're like, I'm the recovering Democrat, right? And so taxes are okay, but I want to see some measurable results. So there's another request in Olympia, okay? And it's from the Department of Agriculture. And they want about $12 million for the control of invasive Japanese beetle.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's like the details about how it's quote unquote extremely destructive to numerous crops. Okay? So I think the reasonable path is let's go for eradicating the beetles.
Yeah.
Which is bad because they're a great band. Like, okay, that just came out of my mouth. Like, no, B-E-E, the Beatles. The Beatles. I was in the Beatles for a moment, and it's very interesting as a musician.
Were you? How far back does your political inclinations go? Have you always been politically inclined? Were you?
I always paid attention. I always voted. My first election was in 1984. I walked into a union hall in Aberdeen, Washington, and there was this massive portrait of Lyndon B. Johnson. Okay, and there was a poll there. That's when there was a poll, and I voted for Walter Mondale.
Okay.
For president. Yeah. That's the only person I remember voting for, and I voted in every presidential
that didn't go well for him.
And then, Nirvana ended in 1994, and then we had some real challenges, attacks on the music community in Washington State. And Seattle had the teen dance ordinance, right? Where you're 18 to 20-year-old adult, you couldn't go to a live music event.
Right.
Olympia had censorship with harmful to minors, the erotic music law. Mm-hmm. There was that kind of stuff. And so we started a political action committee, a political group, and we were advocating on behalf of the music community that music is an asset and not a liability for Washington State. And we were hearing back from legislators like, oh yeah, I just came back from Australia, and people are saying, oh, you're from Seattle? Yeah, like Soundgarden, Nirvana. By the way, Soundgarden's going to be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. 2 nights.
November
8th. On Saturday. So anyway, and that's when I started going to Olympia. Like, I remember working with Sid Snyder. That's my institutional memory, right? Yeah. And we were working, and Governor Lowry, and we were working on advocating that, hey, we're an asset and not a liability. And so that's how, it's like, I'm just a bill, I'm only a bill. Yeah. That's how I learned how, like, the Olympia works and this and that. So I do have some experience.
Did you guys ever talk, back in the Nirvana days, did you guys talk politics?
Oh, of course we did, but it was like that punk rock politics stuff, but we broke a lot of ground. Like it was like 1992, there was an initiative in Oregon to take away the definition, like sexual orientation from the definition of civil rights in Oregon. And so Nirvana, we played a benefit concert for No on 9. And so we stood up for gay, lesbians, for that community, because that's what we believe. And I'm still the same way. For that community, because that's what we believe. And I'm still the same way. And that's when it really mattered, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, who would have ever thought back then? There was, remember Hands Off Washington? There was an initiative for, there was some kind of initiative that failed, and it was like pro-gay, lesbian, and it was like the recriminations, it's like, oh my God, and who would have ever thought the morning after that we would have same-sex marriage, which is what I support 100% in Washington State. But my point is that things can change, right?
Yeah.
And that mores and attitudes change.
The thing that you said, which was interesting, you said you don't want to exploit fear or anxiety with the Cascade Party. And I think that's a powerful thing that you said, because when you look at what politics has become, that is at the top of the list, right? How can we go about and exploit fear, exploit anxiety, even create it, right? How can we create fear? How can we create anxiety? And we've seen, I mean, we could sit here for a long time and talk about, all the ways that that's played out over the years. Riff for a moment on that a little bit.
Well, it's just pervasive. And so with Cascade Party, what does a political party do? It frames issues for voters. There's just experts in every field, like agriculture, economics, environment, whatever, right? And so it's even tough for like legislators to keep up with things, let alone voters, right? And so voters rely on a cue, okay? And then now a lot of people have anxiety, they're overwhelmed, they're scared, they don't trust the establishment, but they go back to the same old cues. It's like, okay, I'm gonna vote for the donkey. Okay, I'm gonna vote for the Republican because that makes the most sense to me. Well, if we could have a public profile, because the Cascade Party, our mascot is an owl. So all people need to do is like, oh yeah, Cascade Party, I agree with them on that. Like, yeah, we should eradicate the Japanese beef, So that's what parties do, is they package issues for people.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have the advantage of that in Washington State is our election system. We have this like top 2 primary, and we can get into the weeds about prefers party and on those ballot disclaimers. But in the end of the day, it's a runoff system. So if we can get out of the primary and it's the right district with the right candidate, and we can make our case to voters, say we're paying attention to Olympia. These are good taxes. These are bad taxes. These are too much taxes. Let's pay for this, but this doesn't make any sense, and maybe the ruling party should explain this instead of blaming El Trumpissimo way back east, right? Okay, that's what they just pivot on all the time, right?
Oh, I know.
And so it's just like, if enough voters that's what parties do. And so if you do like comparative politics, like look at Australia. Like Australia has a dominant conservative party and a dominant Labour party. But they also have like these surges of minor parties, like the Green Party, okay? And then the Green Party will do really good in an election, and they'll elect some people, but then the major parties see that the issues that they ran on, the issues that they introduced into campaigns, and then the major parties fold those into their own manifestos.
Yeah.
So that's another thing about being a new party and a minor party, is bringing issues into the campaign. It's like, we get it, he's a blowhard, we get it, he's a bull in a china shop, okay? But what's going on in Olympia, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and oh my gosh, I could talk about this forever, because to me, that gets so nauseating when the issues that we're dealing with on the ground. I live up in Lake City in North Seattle, and we're dealing with unbelievable issues up there.
I'm not going to enforce the soap zone. It's just like, well, what are you going to do? Have these like hug squads? Like, hey, the Johns, You know,
But when we talk to I'll go to these meetings.
It's ridiculous. And they voted. We're going to have a new city attorney.
I'll go to these meetings with the 46 district Democrats, and to your point, all they want to do is talk about Trump, and it's like Trump has nothing to do with what's happening in Lake City.
He lives in their head rent free. They're obsessed. It's like the guy with the bell and the clapboard. The end is coming. The end is coming soon. You know, it's just like it's the same stuff.
We're talking to Krist, Novoselic, co-founder of Nirvana in 1987, co-founder of Cascade Party 2024. Can you hang out for a few more minutes? We'll
oh my God, absolutely.
I got a couple more questions to throw your way, because you mentioned Soundgarden getting inducted here in 2 nights, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, that's kind of a big thing for them. I mean, I know it's been a long time waiting. Maybe we can chat a little bit about that
I'd love to.
after
I will
the break.
listen to the break intently.
All right. Hey, Tim Gatos, I'm going to throw it over to Nate at the real-time traffic desk. How we looking, Nate?
Oh, it's terrible, man. That drive into Everett is a real battle this afternoon. Seattle to Everett up to an hour.
Black hole sign, won't you come?
In studio with us, Krist Novoselic, co-founder of Nirvana in 1987, founder of Cascade Party 2024. Krist, I was curious, is there a role model, inspiration to you that you look at and you think of, your background in art and music, and then as you've gotten more involved politically, is there anyone that either you've connected with or you look to when it comes to people who've done similar things, right? I mean, we've seen other, artists and musicians who have gotten more involved and made big differences politically, but is there anyone that is your inspiration? There we go. We got it.
Yeah, it's like Sonny Bono was cool. He came out of the music industry and he went to Congress. I worked in this election reform group, Fair Vote, and when I joined the board, the chair was John B. Anderson, who ran for president in 1980. An iconic independent campaign, and just to watch John chair meetings, and he was in the U.S. House from 1960 to 1980, and we would ask him questions like, what happened when President Kennedy was shot? Or like, what was Gerald Ford like? Because he was in the House with, Jerry would, he was a great guy. So I look up to him and his decorum. I try to be like that, and then like being in the Grange and just some of the leaders in the Grange, in my local Grange, and the way they would conduct meetings, and then that whole ethic of just being like nonpartisan and not trying to see humanity in people instead of just dehumanizing.
Right.
And that's what partisan politics does. It robs us of that.
Yeah.
And we're just wasting our lives. It's just like, I just turned 60 years old.
Hey,
right?
Congratulations.
Thank you. I made it. And then you start thinking about life and like, well, I can't make that commitment because maybe that's for a younger person.
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, I want to love my family and my community and my home and my life.
Yeah.
And I have so many blessings. And so why am I going to get all wrapped up in politics?
Yeah.
Like, I love doing politics, but it's like policy and trying to do something different. And so with like Nirvana, we were, it's a cliche, but we were disruptors. So the music scene in 1991, the rock music, there was no #1 rock record for like a year. And then you had these rock bands that were like these Aerosmith knockoffs. So like Aerosmith at the height of their powers in the late 70s. And so they took that, like this Hollywood Sunset Strip band, and they just kind of rehashed it, okay? And so you had, people wanted a new kind of rock music. So we came along and like shake things up. And so trying to do that with Cascade Party, just do something different and make people dance again.
On that point, is there any revisionist history that you see, and this can happen all over the place, where you see things that kind of get distorted a little bit, but is there any revisionist history that you see from back in those days, talking about getting the #1 rock record and just how that played out, that people talk about now, that you're like, you know what, that's not exactly the way it was, and it maybe got revised a little bit?
We had a #1 record, and we knocked Michael Jackson from the top of the charts. And somebody said that he was so upset that he slapped his monkey. But that's
Is that
that never happened.
But
yeah, there's something like that. Right? Yeah, poor thing. Yeah, poor thing. I love animals. That was just appalling to hear that.
Yeah. Do you play a lot right now?
Yes, I play accordion and acoustic guitar. Now, I've made 5 records since 2017.
Yeah.
I made Giants in the Trees. Then I made this art record, Butterfly Launches from Sparpole. Check out butterflylaunch.com. Check out cascadeparty.org. Cascadeparty.org. That's the political stuff. But the music, and then the last 2 records I made was Third Secret with Matt and Kim from Soundgarden. So we had this like super group thing going. So 3RD Secret, check it out.
Yeah, and you're heading down to LA for the
on
induction.
Saturday, we're going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to support Soundgarden finally. It's bittersweet. It's going to be one of those bittersweet. Krist isn't going to be there, we know.
Right.
So that didn't come out very good. I don't know, maybe I'm self-conscious. Or when I deal with those things, I maybe stutter or stumble.
Yeah.
But it's like, I wish it would have been better. It's bittersweet.
Yeah.
So.
Were you pretty, obviously you were close to those guys because you're playing with Matt and Kim now. I mean, were you closer now or were you closer then or?
We were, we had this great music scene in the late 80s in the mid 80s where everybody was supportive and positive and we would hang out and we would drink beer and go to each other's shows. And I remember the first Soundgarden show that I saw, and it was with Hiro Yamamoto on bass, Kim Dial on guitar, and Chris Cornell on drums and vocals. And he had this like Flock of Seagulls haircut. Remember the band Flock of Seagulls? Like the dippity-doo kind of spike,
for sure.
A bang kind of coming down over his nose.
Yeah.
And it was at Guerrilla Gardens in the International District. And bands are like, there's like okay bands, and I could tell right away they were a great band. There was something about them that were like, I watched the whole show.
Yeah. And there's something obviously with, I think of, Krist, he went to Shorewood High School, I think, didn't he? And I think
He's a Seattle guy.
I think he went to Shorewood, and then Lane Staley went to Linwood High School for a couple years. And there's a lot, I mean,
I went to Aberdeen High School.
You went to Aberdeen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever go back to the reunions or anything like that?
No, because I'm department store Santa Claus. I should go, and that means because when I go and then I have to take a picture with everybody, it's just like, and I do that like
Thanks a lot,
every
Joe.
day. I do that every day, and like Joe, I have these postcards because sometimes I'm not in the mood to take photos, or like, oh, here's a card, or like if I take a photo with you, all those other people are going to want one, and there goes my night. Like department store Santa Claus is in the house.
Yeah. As you look back and just you think of you're still involved musically. Do you tour on any of these records that you're putting out?
No, we were doing Third Secret, and Matt was still in Pearl Jam. So there's that. See, there's all this kind of like mixing and mashing, and so he would just go on the road with Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
So you can't really blame him for doing that.
Right. Which he just recently said he's done. Right. Yeah. It's a lot to do. A lot to get on the road.
I talked to him about it. I might ask him about it on Saturday, or maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe just look to the future.
When you think of we were talking about this between the break, and like the Cascade Party and the kind of the big picture, and the famous question that people ask: what does success look like? When you think of that, and you say, in 5 years from now, this would be a dream if the Cascade Party did this.
Well, we're going to be recruiting candidates for the 2026 election, and to find candidates that are quality candidates and can appeal to voters. And we're having our convention in January in Centralia, and so we'll be reorganizing the party. And so as to get candidates elected or have enough of an impact where you shift the narrative, or you contribute to the narrative. And that's what I mentioned earlier about minor parties, is to bring issues in. It's like, we get it, all this kind of mayhem and anxiety, but here's this issue, like maybe because this affects your business or this affects your household budget, right? So success is just really just being a party and participating. And we also do this, the way we associate is like, I'm not aware of any other political party in the world doing what we do. It's like we have our own social media. We have this app called HumHub. It looks like Facebook, it acts like Facebook, but we control it 100%. It's this open source app that we uploaded to our own server.
Can you get locked out like Facebook?
I got locked out of Facebook. I joined Facebook again like a couple weeks ago, and I got verified, and I think they charged me $11.99. And so, like, Chris, you should join it. You're doing this Cascade Party. You could be good for the party. You're the chair of the party. Like, all right, I'll go back on Facebook. And then I'm like, you should get verified. Get that little verified. If you look, I'm probably there. Why hasn't Chris been posting in the last 5 days? Because I'm locked out. What did I do? I posted pictures of Chad Channing, the first Nirvana drummer. I did that. Sarah Nelson for city council. I shared some of her stuff. But it's really nothing.
So what do you think? What do you think it was?
I may be a technical glitch or
Yeah.
whatever, but I don't really miss it because I look at my phone. I'm in the house and I look at my phone and I'm like, don't do it. Be good to yourself, Chris. You don't have to pick up the phone. Pick up the accordion. Pick up a book. Like you could, yeah. So it's kind of like this obsessive thing. Like, why am I doom scrolling and stuff? It's just like,
Yeah.
and you feel bad afterwards. Like, why did I do it? I've just eaten a whole box of powdered donuts. What have I done? You know, it's just like,
Oh my gosh.
that kind of regret. So I'll read a policy paper, right? Or like or listen to a podcast that's like got good information, okay? Because you're gonna be doom scrolling and there's people who are like, yeah, this guy is obsessed with Donald Trump. I get it. Like he needs therapy or something, right? Or some kind of like, we should smudge him with sage or some kind of ritual to like, exorcism, right? Like get over it. But that's easier said than done because you'll disarm the opposition party. Look at cascadeparty.org. That's
There it
us.
is, Krist, Novoselic, cascadeparty.org, and the convention is coming up in January.
Check us out. You get all the information online, the HumHub. So you join the HumHub, you're a member. So we don't track you, we don't sell you to advertisers. We're empowering people. It's a new kind of social media. It's an empowering social media. We don't exploit people.
Yeah.
So we're breaking ground there too.
Yeah.
So people, that's something cutting edge.
Hey, really appreciate you joining us today on the program. Thanks for taking the time and looking forward to seeing what Cascade Party does.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
having me.
much.